in the right room today because we have two amazing experts. We have Dr. Chambers, aka the period doctor,
Hello, everyone. Good to see you again.
OBGYN, author, and speaker.
Thank you.
And we also have Sateria, who is the founder and the CEO of the Fibroid Foundation.
Hello, it's so
Yes.
good to see you all. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
So I'll let them take it away. I really want you guys to anchor this talk, tell your story, and I'm just here to learn. So thank you so much.
I'm happy to just lean in. One, I just want to commend you all for walking over here and gathering in an area where you can lean in and lean into your experience and hopefully get the support and education and encouragement and just back rub or whatever you need. I truly believe we need to be creating more safe spaces like these that are intentional. People tell me all the time, you are so niche. I'm like, but I am so needed. And that is the problem. Things that are needed, they categorize as niche. But I center Black women in your lived experiences, and I care deeply about it. And so I want to thank you and honor you for letting me be in this space with you as a Black woman who menstruates as well, who has had her own health battles. I want you to see me as someone who sees you fully and is grateful to be in this room.
So, seeing all of you here today is the absolute favorite part of my job. Being able to talk with you and hear your stories and help. I really always want to help people to elevate above a challenging situation. And if you've had challenges with fibroids, I've been where you are. I made a complete career change because life brought to my doorstep 4 fibroid surgeries. And I did not realize the impact. I thought I was by myself. I was living in Chicago, which is a major metropolitan city, and at that time couldn't find a provider like Dr. Gillespie Bell to help me through my symptoms. And I really just launched this journey, which now has reached over 180 countries. So we have chapters set up, which I hope you all will consider joining so that you can reach the women and menstruators in your community who need assistance and information. The Southeast is more prone to having providers recommend hysterectomy. So where we are right now. And I want to applaud the fellas. Anyone without a uterus, we need you in this conversation.
Yes.
We need you to talk to your friends about it so that they can support their partners and sisters and mothers through this journey. So we're looking forward to really, being an anchor for you today to help you with any questions you may have and to help you feel comfortable about advocating for yourself and your health, because you're the expert in your body. You know your body, you know what's typical, you know what's not, and you also, and this is really important, you know what is a priority for you in terms of you feeling better, and what, if anything, you'd like to see change. And so we're here to help you find the language and the tools to vocalize that if you need it. Some people don't, but to help you have a better outcome and to thrive. I really want us to all go from suffering to thriving. And I found that in my advocacy walk, when I was sitting in a research meeting and I was hemorrhaging, I was far less equipped to really advocate for the community than when those symptoms had ended for me. I had a lot more bandwidth. So I'm happy to have the bandwidth for all of you today to help you to advocate and find the solutions that you need and get past this. I'll give one quick example. There was a woman in Kentucky. It was the week before Christmas. She had been to 3 doctors who told her to have a hysterectomy. Her fibroid mass was the size of a basketball. And we got on the phone and found her a provider who was able to remove her fibroids and keep her uterus intact. And we did that over the Christmas holiday.
Excellent.
So, thank you.
Yes.
That's why we're here. And so I'll turn it back over to you.
So I'd like to get you all talking. I want to know if anyone has a story, a period story, that they'd like to share with us. It can be anything, whatever is on your heart.
Yes, Queen. You look like the sunrise. You look well.
Thank you. I mean, how deep are we going with the period story?
As deep as you want to go.
Is
This
it?
deep.
Okay. I'll never forget when at postpartum, I had hormonal shifts in my body.
Yes.
I developed estrogen dominance before I even knew what that was. And I was on a double date with my husband. And while I was sitting at the table wearing the biggest pad I could find and a tampon, I started gushing blood and bleeding through my clothes. And I was so ashamed that I didn't want to alarm anybody, right? Because there's so much stigma around it. Asking the waiter for napkins, slowly stuffing them up to like limp to the bathroom and, you know, try to take care of myself in solitude.
Yes.
And so I guess I like to share that story because I always want to encourage women to like be open to sharing and like release the stigma around your period. But because I moved in shame for so long, I ended up getting 2 blood transfusions to save my life because I just thought, oh, I have an extra heavy period. Nothing's wrong with me. But there was a lot that was wrong.
Thank
That's my
you.
period story.
Oh
Thank
my
you for
goodness. Thank you for
sharing
sharing that.
Has anyone else felt shame regarding their period? Has anyone else felt that themselves in this room? I want to just hold space for that, and I want to share a piece. My mother told me when I started my period, my mom passed away, the best mother I could have had, but I could have had better period education. She told me, no one should know when you're on your period. And I just remember being like, what? Like, what does that mean? And I think many of us carry the guidance from prior generations that your period is your personal responsibility. And if you can't handle that period, maybe that looks like or speaks to a failure on your part. And I want to release us all from that. That it's okay to talk about your period, that sharing that period story was a good thing, and a problem shared is a problem halved, right? But also that shame keeps us stuck, right? It makes it so that we're getting blood transfusions instead of maybe taking some iron supplements or things that would have been earlier and more appropriate. So anyway, I want to hold space for that, but that shame didn't come from nowhere, right? It has come from generational kind of lessons that we have to break free from. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And release is such a beautiful word. And I'm so happy for you, and it touches me as well. And you touched on a really important factor, which is anemia. I didn't understand anemia. We're not medical professionals, and most women and menstruators do not know what anemia is broadly, the definition, and for themselves personally. And anemia is when your hemoglobin level, which is your blood count, it's normally in the 12 to 13 range. There are some women, mine got as low as 5.6.
Five?
So, yeah.
Is that the lowest?
Yeah. So, and some women are walking around. It's unbelievable what our bodies carry, and it can be very dangerous, life-threatening. And I was at a doctor's office, and he said, "Did you drive to the appointment?" And I thought, why is he asking me that question? And he said, "I'm afraid that you might pass out behind the wheel driving home." And that was the first time that I understood what anemia really, really meant for me personally and how it could impact my day-to-day existence. And so, and I've met women in spaces where they're like, oh, I have to be careful bending down and standing up. If you have, usually for me, it was like when my hemoglobin got between 9 and 10, that's when I was waking up in the morning and slowly getting out of bed. When we start making those types of adjustments or feel lightheaded or see stars, that's one of the first things I ask our community members is, what's your hemoglobin level? Do you know what it is? Because it can be an emergency issue. And there's so many people I've told, go to the emergency room right now. And I'll say this, I know I'm talking a lot, but it's important. When you get to the emergency room, Dr. Gillespie Bell, let me know if I'm right on this, but I usually say try to work with your emergency room physician to get a blood count and not have to endure a pelvic exam while you're hemorrhaging. Is that?
Yes, absolutely. If you already have the signs, you have the symptoms, even if your hemoglobin is a little bit higher, you need a blood transfusion. A pelvic exam is not going to tell us anything, so you don't have to have that, but definitely that blood transfusion.
Thank you. And then another thing is the physicians in the emergency room don't do pelvic exams that much. And so you would be in agony and hemorrhaging. So if you've experienced that, just hopefully this is freeing you from having a terrible experience if, heaven forbid, you have to be transfused.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
We have another story.
One piece that you touched on that I really think is also important, especially as someone who might be a little bit younger in the room, is the intergenerational conversations needing to happen more.
Yes.
I'm blessed that my mom is a nurse, so we had a lot of conversations, I think, early on, but now that I'm getting older, in my late 20s, almost 30s, there's not a lot of conversations about like the next phase and preparing for that. So it's like, hearing about menopause or postpartum, what does that look like, even though right now in this phase of my life, I might, only be experiencing my menstrual cycle. Knowing more about what's to be expected or how I can, improve my health to make sure that that's a smoother transition. I wish more of those conversations were happening. So it's good to see a range of people in the room from different ages and, stages, because I think, again, like you spoke about, the only way we're going to understand and grow as a community is if we have conversations openly and can hear someone else's perspective to learn from, to bring into your own. So just wanted to say I really think that piece is important, and I hope that, like, women, tell your daughters, daughters, talk to your moms, ask them about their experiences, and then even just asking questions so you know your own health history in order to make sure that you're informed and taking care of yourself.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. Thank you for sharing that.
I'll just kind of lean into that. So I mentioned this on stage, and I don't know that people always understand what that means. I'm a board-certified OBGYN, but I specialize in pediatric and adolescent gynecology. And folks say, well, what you doing there, right? But the reality is many of the people who have endometriosis and PCOS and heavy menstrual bleeding had it earlier on than when it was deemed as appropriate or worthy of treatment or worthy of discussion. And so we need to be talking with younger generations about our family history, right? We shouldn't be finding out when we're 35 about to go into the operating room that everybody in the family got fibroids. Like, why didn't you tell me, right? We don't need to be finding out about our fertility struggles, when we are much later in life. That conversation needs to be something that we are pushing all the time. And so I think that always in CVS bringing this to Essence is a beautiful example about where these conversations belong. Yes, we're having a good time. Yes, we got some freebies. We're going to be at the concert on tonight, okay? But we can still talk about the very real lived experiences to make it better for the people in the room. And so all of us, the fullness of us, it is all worthy and it all belongs.
That's such a good question. And Dr. Sharis, is there any advice on when parents should start with,
Yes, so people always ask me this, and of course in this space, a lot of folks, especially in our community, think that if we don't talk about it, we are preserving the childhood of our daughters, right? And then we grieve when our daughters start to bleed as if they are no longer girls. Hear me this. Just because your daughter starts to bleed does not mean that she is suddenly a woman overnight. She is in more need of your love and care and mercy and guidance than she ever was before. For that very reason, it is important that we talk about these things early and often. We are not waiting for the first drop of blood to start dropping seeds of truth, right? You can plant those as young as potty training years. Whether you realize it or not, you're having conversations about how to manage your body when you're teaching your 2-year-old how to wipe. So when we remove the hypersexualization, the adultification, the politicalization, and all of those things that weigh us down as adult women, we can let our children be the children they should be. And we can give them honest and true and compassionate advice so that they can manage their body appropriately, and let them know that whatever happens, they can come to us. It is being that advocate, that consistent advocate for your child, where it's not just one talk, it is multiple talks, and those talks never end.
And your question just has so many layers that are important to address. One is being the child of a mother who was almost 40 when she had me. Her period journey was very different from mine. The products were very different. And so some moms and parents may be more educated on period products than others, but mine was not particularly. And so, she brought me a belt, and I was like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? And I think I used it one time because I was like, there are some other products available. So that is important to really recognize that since there are generational gaps,
Yes.
that what's typical for one family member may not be well informed, even though they care about you. And I also want to touch on the menopause piece, because for years I was told, oh, when you get the menopause, you don't have to worry about the fibroids. And I always say that fibroid pain and cramping is just a tiny bit worse than some menopause symptoms can be. So, and hormones need to be managed and monitored even through menopause. So at the Fibroid Foundation, we like to support our community from the first period through and beyond menopause, because their needs through are over the whole life continuum. And it's really important to get comfortable having those conversations cross-generationally.
Hi everyone, my name is Kayla. A couple years ago, I started to have what felt like really bad gas in my chest, and it just would come every month, and I didn't really start to notice the patterns until about maybe the third or fourth month. And I'm like, what's going on? Then I noticed it will always be around my cycle, about a week or so before. So I would bring it up to doctors. They're just like, oh, it's probably stress. Stress is their favorite word. And it's like, it's not that. It's kind of weird. Like, I don't know what it is. It's like it would travel up and down my chest. So again, just mentioning it multiple times. And I started to I went to several appointments, and I started to do more research. Turns out it's a version of endometriosis called catamenial pneumothorax. So essentially every month my lungs are collapsing, and that's what I'm feeling. So I had to go to the doctor, and I told my doctor, she's black, all my providers are black, and this may sound crazy, but be open to it. Sometimes you have to teach your doctors, because it's such a rare situation that she didn't know anything about it. There's only a handful of people, it seems like, that really have been treated for it. We're still trying to figure out all the screening and how to fix it. But she sat there and she did the research right then and there. Once I told her not, but I had to go and I had to keep mentioning it. I went to other doctors, like I had a cardiologist, and they just didn't bother with it for a long time. But she actually sat down and researched it. So like I said, I just want to encourage you guys to consider other parts of your body, because it all works together. It's not just your uterus.
Really quickly, I just want to define endometriosis. So endometriosis is a chronic inflammatory condition that's estrogen dependent, and it is systemic. We used to think it was gynecological in nature, and we used to call it that. And many people, patient advocates with endometriosis, said, y'all have it wrong, because of Kayla's story, because of knowing how it could affect the lungs, even be in the brain. As gynecologists, if we are only looking in your pelvis, we are not looking in the right spot. And so I want to hold space for that as a gynecologist who hears patient stories, that we don't always get it right. And it is your persistence that shouldn't be necessary, but that is, and a lot of times, with a doctor who looks like you, who values you, but it's just something really rare that can mean the difference. And so you are not being dramatic. Let's stop telling our daughters that they are being dramatic. Let's stop telling our friends they are being dramatic. Let's hold space for women being heard the first time.
Thank you all for being here. And Erica, do you want to close us out?